What's up, fam? It's Pat Mike with you. Listen, I've got a question. How much is your future worth? I mean, really, how much do you value your own particular destiny? And then that becomes a question of investing. How much is it worth investing in? You know, they say in life that you only get out of it what you put in it. So what if I were to tell you that I can help you get more money than you've ever gotten before, have more happiness than you've ever had before, and have more peace than you've ever had before? I want you to join me on my coaching platform called The Wisdom Blueprint. The Wisdom Blueprint is simply the what to, the how to, everything you need to know to have more joy, to have more peace, to have more money. Join me on The Wisdom Blueprint every month. It's a monthly subscription, no contracts necessary, cancel at any time, and get the insight, the intel you need that will take your life, your ministry, your business to the next level. I'm talking about The Wisdom Blueprint. Sign up today. Welcome, one and all to another edition of Wednesday's Word with yours truly, Pastor Mike. I'm so excited and delighted to be with you again for another episode. And listen, I want you to do me a favor and become that electronic evangelist and that digital deacon and begin to share. Tell somebody that we're on the air with at least 5, 10, maybe 20 of your friends. I'm back last week, testimony time. This time last year, I was diagnosed, had surgical surgery, and complete deliverance from prostate cancer. This time last year. So bless God, by his stripes I am healed. Not only by his stripes, but by the surgeon's scalpel, I am also healed. So I believe in both processes. If God, he's given us doctors and physicians for a purpose. As a matter of fact, one of the disciples, or the followers, I should say, of Christ was himself Luke, a physician himself. So I believe in divine healing, but it doesn't always have to happen while I'm sleeping. Sometimes it's while I'm under sedation and the doctor's working. And so that's why I wasn't here last week. So I'm super excited to be back this week to be able to share Wednesday's Word with you. And I'm over the top excited because this weekend is going to be incredible. I don't know if I've ever done anything equal to this level of conversation and discourse when it comes to the purpose of men. Now, I have to remind you before I get any further down the road, again, I want you to share, because of course, sharing is caring. You already know that. So one of the most important, I think one of my most important webinars that I did, and I want you to get it while you're there at the Wisdom Blueprint because it's available right now. It's called the Algorithm of Wealth. The Algorithm of Wealth. In it, you're going to discover the secrets of how the wealthy people think, because wealth is not wealth is not determined by what's in your bank account. Wealth is determined what's in your mindset. That is why I got a little T-shirt too to add to it that your mindset affects your asset. Everything funnels and tunnels through the vehicle of your mind. That's why if you're going to live a successful Christian life, you have to do it with the realization that you must be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I want you to get this resource into your hand, because I believe it's the most important thing you're going to be able to grasp in plain language, plain English. Myself, Sebastian Ucata Guy, and Daryl Good, we team up to bring you insight on how to think like the wealthy do, how to not only think like the wealthy think, but how to maneuver and make moves as they do as well. Things that perhaps, I won't say they're hidden from us, but we certainly didn't know about them for a long time. Okay, but we're coming into the realization of it, and we want to pass that information on to you, because again, where there's knowledge, there's power, there's growth, and there's increase. All right, so God says himself, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. All right, so at that alone, that should encourage you. There's no such thing as spending money. It's always investing when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to learning and growth. It's never spending money. As a matter of fact, we never spend money. We only invest money or recycle or reuse. Spending is the dead end, and we don't want you to think in terms of dead end when it comes to the finances, because again, it's God's desire that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prosper. I don't know if you guys are doing the work of the evangelist, but I want you to do and make sure. I'm going to remind you one more time. I got a special guest hanging out in backstage right now. Is getting ready to come out, because we're going to be talking about this upcoming weekend. This weekend is focused exclusively rather, on the topic of men. Those that love them, those that have them, in terms of father, uncles, brothers, nephews, and we're going to also, of course, include what I think is necessity to help women to understand as well. How do you relate to a man? You know, oftentimes we think we know based on what we see on television, what we've seen on radio or heard on radio, but when it comes to urban radio, you don't want to learn how to relate to each other through urban radio. It's just not there. I'm sorry. I know that's kind of hard hitting, but the reality is it is not there. But you're going to learn concepts and tools and techniques you can use that will cause you to effectively engage your man, whether he's your husband, your father, your brother, your cousin, your uncle, or whoever they may be. You're going to see them in a brand new light, in a more effective way. And I think it's going to be a blessing to you. So I want to make sure that, but from the onset, that you make every plan to be a part of this weekend's Keeping It Hot. That's one of our favorite and most attended workshops and webinars that my wife generally have for couples. But this is a focus on men, and of course we're allowing women to take part in it, so that you can gain some insight, so that you can more effectively and more efficiently communicate and collaborate with men in a more efficient way. So don't forget, it's free of charge. It's not going to cost you anything. And if you know anything about me, I believe you should pay for everything. I mean, salvation was free, but everything else after that has to cost. Because again, why would you offer something to God what costs you nothing? I mean, it shows a level of respect, not only for the one you're giving to, but it shows respect for the one who's doing the giving as well. So anyway, take advantage of while this is free of charge. Get everybody you know, uncle, cousin, brother, and aunties, all of them. Make sure you can sign up free of charge by going to MichaelNormanMinistries.com. I'm going to put it up there. And go there as quickly as you can right after this broadcast, but because I'm about to bring on R. Kelly is coming. So I want you to stay tuned for the pastor, not Robert. I'm talking about Roger Kelly. He's coming, and I want you to enjoy what he has to say here on our broadcast. So make sure you go to MichaelNormanMinistries.com, sign up, make sure you tell everyone you know. Sign up for this Keeping It Hot Men's Edition this Saturday, 9 a.m. It is going to be powerful. All right. So that being said, I don't want to belabor the point. I want to bring in my very special guest from way back. We've known each other for quite a number of years. And it's just refreshing that we've been able to reconnect after so many years and have such similar mindsets when it deals with the issue of man, their purpose, their destiny, potential. And I want to give him an opportunity to join me in this discussion. So I'm going to bring to your front and present to others the one, the only, the pastor, Roger Kelly. How are you? And should I say Pastor Roger C. Kelly?
Okay.
And the
Yes,
C
sir.
stands for Christ Warrior.
Charles, but that's okay. It means warrior.
Yes, and Charles.
Charles.
Oh, how about that? I didn't even know that. That works for me then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Brother Kelly, we've known each other for a number of years, but this is your first time on my broadcast here on Wednesday's Word, which is generally my I call it Bible study, but we kind of color outside of the line intentionally because I think that knowledge is expansive. I don't think that all that we know is all there is to know, and there's so
Right.
much more to learn and grow thereby. But before we get too far down the line, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your
Okay.
educational background, and a little bit about, we're not going to give an audit, but, tell the folks about
Okay.
yourself.
Yes, sir. Well, it is a pleasure to join you, my friend. And the energy that you have and your commitment to really sharing the wisdom of God from a kingdom standpoint is quite refreshing. So I am honored and delighted to be with you. You were known back in the day more for your music.
Right.
And I remember seeing you and I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is Mike. So there's a whole nother aspect, man, that God had under wraps and has been working on.
Absolutely. Who knew?
So so it is a pleasure. Um, I'm a native, of Central Florida. Grew up here. Went to Jones High School, Valencia Community College, UCF. God saved me and called me around about the age of 19.
Hmm.
And so my life took a dramatic turn when that happened. But I studied business, marketing, theology, a number of things, really figuring it out early on. But I wound up in the senior pastorate. I did it for 37 years
Hmm.
and retired from that setting 6 years ago, but not ministry, but pastoral ministry.
Right.
And so what I've been doing is I've operated several businesses to create multiple streams of income. I'm an author, business consultant, financial consultant. I've traveled to help churches and leadership and deacons and ministers and boards, and it's been a good run.
Yeah.
Um, been married for 43 years. I have 7 children, 9 grandchildren. And so it's really been a blessing.
Well,
I've lived long enough, Mike,
uh-huh.
to watch trends in society and to watch things change in not necessarily a good way. It's really shocking as I look now.
Hmm.
But I'm glad to be a part of what you're doing here and looking forward to lifting our voices and sharing wisdom that can be applicable and life changing.
Yeah, yeah. And what I like about how you deliver and how you speak the word, it's so it's just so practical that you can begin to operate in it immediately. You don't have to go in fast and pray and shut ins and lockouts to be able to, not only comprehend, but begin to
Right,
apply that. So I really
right.
love that about your ministry. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to spend this time with you tonight so we can kind of give them a bit of a preview as to what we can expect this weekend on Keeping It Hot Men's Edition. What's been on your heart about men? Now, I know you're a very passionate man and a learned man, obviously. But what has been really burning in your heart concerning men?
Well, Mike, we are accustomed to everything being done by design.
Hmm.
As much as we want to just kind of go whatever way we want to go, we want things to work right. You expect your watch to do what? To tell time.
Hmm.
You expect the phone to be able to make calls and text and do those things. Why? Because they were created by a design of through design. You expect when you get in your car and you turn it on and you put it in drive or reverse, you expect it to move because everything is created by design. Everything in our world.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work by design, it is very, very frustrating.
Hmm.
You consider nature. You look at the eagle and how um, he's designed, his wings, his claws, all of that was to fulfill a purpose. Everything is done by design.
Mm.
Where there is a design, there has to be a designer.
Yeah.
And so the thing on my heart is really getting into what is God's blueprint for manhood. What is it? What was on his mind that he designed? I'll tell you another thing is also the seed principle. I don't believe in this life we conjure up something new. I believe that the order of God is what he wants us to become has already been planted within us. And so we are actually fulfilling what's been put on the inside of us. And so our job is to cultivate our lives so that we can really move forward. And that is the thing that we are looking at. So it's design, it's the seed principle, so we can feel the measure of what we are supposed to be and how we are supposed to walk. And I think, Michael, that is very, very important.
Yeah.
It's interesting that male men have always been hated. We see Pharaoh, we see in Christ's day, slaughter the male children. Why is that?
Hmm.
And I really believe because we're carrying something that I don't think we've tapped into the power of manhood yet.
Yeah. I'm with you on
So
that.
those are a couple of thoughts. Yeah.
When you a couple of things you were saying, but one that really stuck out is that when you use the eagle analogy, um, you spoke briefly about how everything about that eagle serves its purpose for being, and so God has something on his mind when he created man the way that he has created him, in every way that he's created them, whether they're short, tall, big eyes, large
Yeah.
nose, small nose, big ears, little ears. It doesn't matter because every aspect of who that man is designed to support the purpose for which he was created.
But back to the eagle just for a moment. The eagle will perch and wait until a certain time of day when instinctively the thermals rise in the air, the currents, and he'll leap up. They have a wingspan of 6 feet or more. He'll leap up and catch a current and just soar. They can travel at speeds that are alarming because they tap into the power of the wind.
Hmm.
You can see them, and then all of a sudden they are miles away. But they are designed. There's tail for steering. Their eyes can see miles away. They're they can also go into a dive of almost 200 miles an hour, catch a prey, the agility. But
Hmm.
again, that's by design.
By design, yeah.
And so again, everything is built according to design. I don't think we appreciate that. We call each other kings and queens. I mean, that's just fad now,
Yeah.
without any reference to context.
Mhm.
It just sounds good. It's a title.
Yeah.
But when we start understanding the authority of a man, there's some meaning to royalty and what we are to do and what we're able to do. And so absolutely um every man carries something that fits in a space that only he can feel because we're unique.
Hmm.
Our
Hmm.
fingerprints aren't alike. Our makeup isn't identical.
Yeah.
Um we so there's something distinct. There's a reason that we are here.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
unlocking that, and that affects the money, that affects the relationship, it affects everything. When that happens, Mike, we know that we're men. One guy, this is kind of funny. He asked for a meeting, right?
Hmm.
And he was the son of another pastor. This is many years ago. And he brought his wife, and my wife was there.
Hmm.
And he stood up and said, "The reason I call this meeting, Pastor Kelly, is I need you to tell my wife." I said, "Okay." He said, "I need you to tell my wife that I'm the man." I said, "Let me get this straight.
Okay.
You want me to tell her that you are the man?"
Want you to
He said, "Yeah,
co-sign.
please."
Hmm.
She need to submit, da da da. I said, "Sir, if I've got to tell her that you are the man, that means you're not."
Mm.
And he's like, he didn't say
Meeting
nothing
is
else the whole.
adjourned. Wait a minute. That's not what I brought. Wait, I didn't bring her here for you to tell her that.
But my point is, when we're walking in that level of authority with the way we carry ourselves, the respect will be there.
Yeah.
It's not a demand thing. It's how we operate and how we live.
Well, I
And
think it oftentimes, when you're promoting an image, or something that's fabricated, or some sort of imagery that's, you know, antithetical to your own personage. We buy into, like you said, fads and what's trendy and things of that nature, and we try to gain our own self-worth based on our ability to wear a pair of Jordans, to have something of significance. We gain, if I got Louis Vuitton's name attached to my body, somehow it adds some added value to me. And so I think one of the things you're saying is if we learn to appreciate that, if God made you, number one, He had an idea on mind. There was an idea in His mind as to what you are to be. And the interesting thing about that is that God starts creation with the man. Now, I know a lot of what we can say tonight might sound and be construed as misogynistic and things of that nature, but you just have to hear us out in this, because again, uh, the reality is that the Bible talks about, when it comes to relationship, that we should ultimately be able to submit to each other, and not take on these titles of who's the boss and that sort of thing. But
but see,
again,
when there's a point to prove, you got a problem.
yeah, when you've got to prove that you're who you say you are, you're probably not who you said you are. And
Where and you don't know, you ignorant of authenticity,
yeah, yeah,
because we get programmed into trying to be like the next guy and all of that. But the reality is there's something special going on in each of our lives, and we have to unlock that.
yeah. And that takes a lifetime. But one of the things
Yes,
that it also takes is community. It's not something that happens per se in a vacuum. We have to
right,
find value. I got to see value in you and not be threatened by you. I think that's one of the things
absolutely.
that we have to begin to move in that direction, where we can find uh, value in you, and then you'll reciprocate that same discovery in me, and that we all go up together. I think we linger under the idea that there's not enough happiness, there's not enough sense of well-being and esteem, self-esteem to go around. That in order for me to feel good about me, I have to make you feel bad about you.
Right, right. Competition instead of collaboration.
Yeah,
Working together because we really care. We really love each other,
yeah,
and we know that together we can have some impact. I'm doing nothing by myself.
right.
Zero.
Hmm. You just saw your boys. Hopefully, you're not a Lakers fan. We're praying against that in Jesus' name. Come on, Denver. However,
Denver put it on them last night.
yeah,
However,
they almost
Denver
lost it too.
Denver played almost perfectly. They were hitting shots, and
Yeah,
the Lakers still only lost by what, five?
yeah, because around that last 4 or 5 minutes, they were throwing up bricks left and right. They
Yeah,
lost focus and lost. So hats off to because they took my Warriors out. But again, I don't know if I would say they took them out as much as the Warriors didn't show up at all. I could
now
have beat
that's
the
true.
Warriors. I could have got you, me, and we're north of 30, 30, 40, and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and I think we could have took them. Got some of our senior brothers the way they were playing, but
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 we've gotten so used to them being a super team,
yeah,
right? To
yeah,
pulling a rabbit out the hat for years and being on top. It was
yeah.
shocking.
Well, it's like whenever Jordan would throw up a shot and it would miss, we'd all be like, "How did that happen?" you know. So, but the point I was making is though it's Jordan knew, he recognized early on. LeBron went on to recognize that you don't win championships on one person.
That's right.
Yeah. It,
That's right.
it takes, like you said, collaboration. We've got to recognize each other's strength. Every man plays a role, plays his spot, and takes care of his position and his role. And that's how we all come up. As they say, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yes, that is true.
So the whole concept of competition, yes, it can be healthy in some ways, but it can be destructive in other ways. You know,
Right.
Paul talks about in his writing how that we compare ourselves amongst ourselves, which which interestingly enough becomes self-sabotaging because we
Right.
don't add up to what we believe someone else is, and so I think one of the things, and women are good at it. They're willing to collaborate in some cases. They're willing to share their inner thoughts and their emotions and their ideas with each other, and because
Right.
that's generally part of their nature. But men, we tend to
Right.
close off. We tend to lock ourselves off. I'll never forget one of the greatest revelations I've ever had, and I'm somewhat a in my core. I'm somewhat of a introvert. I find refuge. I find peace being alone. I like being with me.
Right.
Alone.
Right.
I don't like to share me with others. In that sense, in terms of I get a better way of saying it is I get refreshed and
Right.
renewed when am alone. Some
In
people get
solitude.
refreshed. Yeah, solitude works for me. But one day, the Spirit of God spoke to me, and I don't claim that He talks to me all the time, but this is one of those undeniable incidents where He said, Mike, you're painting yourself in a corner. I'm painting myself into a corner. Yeah,
Mm.
you keep everyone at such at hand's length, at arm's length, and at bay till you won't let anyone come in. So you're painting yourself into a corner till there's going to come a day when you need somebody and there won't be anybody to be there for you because it won't be their fault. It'll be your own because you pushed them away and you would not allow them entry into your life. And
Right.
there began the whole revolution and the
Wow.
reconstructing of Michael Norman. Now I'm learning how to be more inclusive, how to be
Right.
more communicative and collaborative, because
Right.
I understand at the end of the day, uh, I can't make it without you. I think the greatest sin about Cain and Abel was Cain said, insulted God by saying, am I my brother's keeper? In other words, I don't care what happens to my brother. And I think
Right.
that's the attitude that really uh, genders the anger of God.
That is absolutely correct. And Mike, we really do need each other. It's really, really important. And I think
And there's nothing
one of the
sensual or sexual about saying, I need you, you need me.
right, no, listen, again, that we all hit times in our lives, and it's especially true for those that are in ministry because of fear and those kind of things to open up and share. But the truth of the matter is, one of the things that really helps is recognizing who God brings in our pathway.
Hmm.
And one of the things I think that we're doing, and one of the things that I believe will come out of this, will be the connections that are going to be made, because that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. As they say, the teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Teamwork makes the dream work. There is no I in team, although Kobe said there's a me in that thing. So again, and it's, I would even like to touch a little bit more on the idea of masculinity. Because again, to admit that I need another man in my life without having any sexual or sensual undertones. It seems like you either in or out. If you have appreciation for another man, then you are another type of person. Talk about relationships with and masculinity and how it plays into relationship.
Well, I've had, I played basketball. I've had a father, as an example in my life period, and he kind of modeled several things, the relationships he had, those things over the years. I've got three brothers. um I've always had what you call a circle of influence of people that I could go and really be real with without fear of exposure or really whatever. And a strong man has to be strong in wisdom. A strong man is not somebody who just says, I got this. It takes a strong man to know when he ain't got it.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
takes a strong man to be able to ask for help. And I say this to people at stretches of my life, the burden was heavier than I could carry. So during my pastoral years, I did professional counseling. I shared with others who were like-minded and like-hearted, and we talked about the real stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Michael, if it wasn't for that, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. And so strength is being able to be vulnerable
Hmm.
and to be able to be transparent and without having to feel like we're having to prove a point. Look, when you are a man and you know you are a man, that's that's liberating.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with who you hang out with, who you prefer. I've heard it said from a theological standpoint. Of course, this kind of colors outside of the theological line, but some would make reference to David and Jonathan having such a relationship. It almost sounds as though it was a sensual relationship,
Right.
so as to promote the idea that men can't just be so bonded together without having any sensuality involved in it.
Man, if when we don't have friends, it's just a dangerous place.
Yeah,
Um, I think the accountability, somebody needs to be close enough to say, hey man, what's going on?
yeah, true.
What
That
are you doing?
hmm yeah.
Where were you?
I needed you, bruh.
Yeah, yeah, we need to be able to communicate in that
Hmm
way. So I think that's healthy. But I do think right connections are important. If you connect to the wrong people, that can be devastating. And I think is what often happens.
Yeah. I think
But
that's what fuels gangs. You know, you got gang problems in Chicago and LA and big cities like that. But it's only, I think it's only an uh, outward example of a inner need to be bonded to someone and have some sort
absolutely,
of connectivity.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And someone that has our back in a time of need. Listen, the strongest man faces vulnerable times.
Hmm
We have times where it's really tough. Having somebody in there at that time, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think to be able to be honest and those I think is just it's key.
Yeah. You know, we talk about this and we'll touch a little bit maybe on this on Saturday, but the whole issue of identity, because you've got so many voices in the earth today, you know, and groups of people who are pulling you to their side, one is pulling to the other side. And it's very easy to kind of lose your own identity. You know, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, you got all other types of groups that are vying for your attention to basically put a label on you and identify who you are. You know, you got the alphabet people who, no hate, no shade, I'm just stating. It's too many
True.
for me to remember. Is they adding to it all the time, so we'll call them
Yeah.
the alphabet people. Um,
Yeah.
but there, there's campaigns that is literally, seemingly having a subversive kind of spirit, for lack of a better term. I understand it's a reality that there are those. I forgot the medical term for for the confusion or the misunderstanding of one's own biological and anatomical ideology or idea or identity.
Right.
So it's a bit of a challenge because again, if you happen to like for myself, when my wife and I, when we bought our first home, guess who decorated it? Me. You know, she was shocked.
Right.
I want to decorate. What? And then she looking at me side eye like, wait a minute now. What are you? What? Why? But again, and I still maintained that I was a man. It's just I am a man who
Right.
enjoys art and decorating. You know, the
Right.
arts in general.
Yes. Well, Pastor Mike, let me tell you why what we're doing is so critical to the hour in which we live right now. Uh, there's two aspects to evolving manhood. One is nature, okay?
Hmm
And everything from psychological to biological, and in so many ways, there's some very unique things about us, chemistry,
Right.
that are really, really important. But the other aspect of it is nurture. There's nature and then there's nurture. What we've been void of because of a lack of nurture, right?
Right. Yes. True.
Young
Black.
men don't know what to do with testosterone.
Right. Yeah.
And by the time they get some sense, there's a whole trail of devastation
hmm
because fathers didn't sit down and talk to them
Right.
and point them. And so I really believe that there is cultivation and I believe that there is a move of God among men. It will be a stirring, a move of cultivation, a move of wisdom,
Hmm. Yeah,
so that we can come fully into who we are supposed to be. Part of its nature,
yeah,
but the other part is nurture. And we've been, I mean, you know the statistics. I don't want to get into throwing those around, but you know, where are the men? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
uh,
They've
I
been
was
redefined.
fortunate.
Yeah, yeah, they're just being redefined. What it even means to be a man, um, because of course you've got so many influences in the world, you know, television, radio, and the things of that nature. That if you do anything that is deemed feminine or unmasculine, then you must be this or you must be that. You know, when I think we're a much more um, intricate and some cases complicated creature than that. I mean, it's on the surface, I think it's very basic, you know. But from there on, you have to kind of dig and discover, like you said, to understand nature and nurture it, so that you can come into, you know, the reality of who you are. One of the things I recognize, particularly in Scripture, is when God makes Adam, He puts him in His presence. So one of the things that we, and not to say that we have to become religious, but we have to have a God conscious, a God mindset,
Absolutely.
in terms of uh, being able to glean from Him, not
In a
just to be a.
practical way.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. He would come down and commune with Him or communicate with Him in the cool of the day. So there is some gleaning that has to be done when we submit to the presence of God. It's not a feminine thing. Somehow it's become, you go to most churches around the world, you're going to find in most cases the greater percentage of the church is probably going to be uh, women. And at some point, men had just kind of opted out and said, "Well, let the women have it," because I think most, particularly where I'm from now, I don't know what your experience in others has been, but from where I'm from,
Very similar.
yeah,
Very similar.
it has been so directed towards women. When you tell a man, touch your neighbor, say, "Child," men we're not gonna do that. Number one,
Right.
and when it's compounded and compound, every sermon is directed at the women, and put your hands on your hip, girl. And well, there are more than girls that are here. There are men and boys and men that are here. So I think that's what has contributed to, I think, the feminization of the church as we know it today.
Right. 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 But identity is so strong, you know, it can be across the spectrum, our preferences, our habits, our gifts. That does not necessarily define our masculinity, you know, to what you're saying. So I think that the whole identity piece and understanding what the core is, I think is so important.
Mhm. Mhm. It's absolutely. So these things and more we're going to be discussing, guys, this weekend, Saturday, and listen, it's going to be very, very provocative, thought provoking. We're just giving you a bit of the surface here tonight so that you can make the decision to join us on Saturday, 9 a.m. for Keeping It Hot, honest, open, and transparent men's edition. And we're going to talk a little bit more about masculinity and what's a man or mentality. How do we develop mentality? How do we develop the character of a man? What's the potential and purpose of a man? And I like what Dr. Miles Monroe said years ago. He says that a man gets his identity when he observes three things. He's in the presence of God. This is in the garden. He's in his presence. He has a good self identity or a good self image because he's made in the image of God. He's in the presence of God, has the image
Right.
of God, and then number three, has a job. So he's really
Yes. The
so
work he's supposed to
yeah.
do.
He says, and when those three things are present, then for all the ladies who might be watching, it is not good for that man to be alone. But the opposite is also true. If he doesn't have a good self-image and he doesn't enjoy the presence of God and he will not
He,
work, it's
he needs to
good
be
for that man to be alone. Tell your daughters.
absolutely. But I think, Mike, as we combine our years of experience and what we've gleaned from life and ministry and our own families and those things, I think that we've got a lot to share. So I'm looking forward to Saturday, laying out some takeaways
Mhm.
that our audience can go work on like right now.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And a
going to
good thing,
help.
and I love the fact, and I love ministering to men and talking to men because they're more informative. Not saying that women don't appreciate how to's, knowledge, you know, the mechanics and how the thing's supposed to work. I remember again in my wife because we're information based. We're kind of info creatures. So you tell us how it's done, then we'll get it done. You give us all the mechanics of how to bring this thing together. You show it to us, and we got it. So
Right.
but women are a little more esoteric. They're a little more ethereal. And so when my wife and I were married, like I think about first, second year of our marriage, um, we were having what we call intense fellowship, and that's arguing for those who don't know. But we were both Christians, and we're like, why are we having these bouts of arguments, and we're supposed to both be Christians? How is this happening? And my wife told me, gave me the spiritual answer. She said, that's the devil. She said, so the next time that happens, we just bind the devil. So me being man, I just pulled out my notepad. I was like, okay, next time that happens, bind the devil. Got it. Put it in my back pocket. And so the next time that episode arrives, I remembered my notes, and we're going at it, and I'm like, oh, I forgot. Next time, bind. Devil, I bind you. And boy, you should have saw my wife. It looked like, I promise you, her head turned 360 degrees, and her voice changed. Who you calling the devil? I was like, scratch that note. That doesn't work. But again, it does kind of highlight the bit of distinction that exists between male and female.
Well, I think that to those that are listening and are considering, men that are on a trek to transformation and maturing and growing up, in every way, and it's never too late, will be the gentlest, they'll be harmless, um, they won't stifle you because they're secure in who they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to want to invest in helping the development of your man.
Yeah,
I think that that is important. And so it's I'm really excited,
yeah.
Pastor Mike. I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
This is going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be groundbreaking. It's going to be eye opening because we're going to give it to you hot, honest, open, and transparent. So
Yeah.
you don't, if you can't handle straightforward, unfiltered conversation. We know how to be discreet, of course, but this is
Right.
not where we want to sugarcoat. We want to make sure every man, every woman that attends will leave this webinar with clear understanding and clear directives so as to enhance your relationship or your future potential
Yeah.
relationships with both a man and because here's one thing I've said, and I will kind of wrap it up for tonight. But I say it was one of the things I came to realize when it comes to male female relationships and integrating with one another. I've come to realize that you're literally dealing with two men. It's just one man has a womb, and as such, it carries a certain personality or a certain trait, while the other one is the seed giver. The other is one is the seed giver. The other is the seed bearer.
Right.
But in gist, one is like I always say, Adam saw it and he was like, "Whoa, man," and it stuck. So
Yeah.
so they're both men. It's just one is a whoa man
Yeah.
with specific traits, attributes, and responsibilities.
So true.
Yeah. So what you got? Anything you want to share before we close out? We're going to take about maybe another 2 or 3 minutes and wrap it up here.
No,
Invite
no, I
everybody to come out and be with us.
yeah, I would just say this will be important. I just don't think that this conversation, what we're going to do, is not being had sufficiently. And I think there's a lot of people um, who just don't know what to do.
Yeah,
They are perplexed. They're at a loss. Get them to tune in on Saturday. Get them to tune in because we're going to give some direction as well.
absolutely. It's going to be powerful. Let me tell you again, it's going to be a powerful, and I don't use that word lightly because, again, the Bible says, this is one of my hallmark scriptures in Hosea, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. You've got so much brain drain in the airwaves today, reality TV. And I have to confess, full confession and transparency, I was a consumer of reality TV back in its beginnings.
Right.
Uh, Love and hip hop was my thing. Man, we even called it Ratchet Mondays. so, so, but I noticed a trend that it kept having the same theme over and over and over. And I was like, you know what? I need to walk away from this. Uh, and I believe that it helped to contribute to the decline of our ability to respect one another and
Mhm.
support one another. So anyway, I had to pull away from that. But the reality is, in pulling away from that, I had to find something to replace that. It's not just moving away, but replacing what it is you remove because we're all vessels. And
Yeah.
there's a law of vacuum that says that anytime there's a hole of any sort, something is going
It's
to
going to
fill it.
fill the void.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Yeah.
if you're walking around with a void in your life, whether it's void of a father, void of a mother, because mothers help to develop men as well,
Right.
if there's a void, something's going to fill that, or at least try to fill that
You're
void.
right.
Whether
You're
it's
right.
multiple sex partners, whether it's identity crisis, whether it's alcohol, drugs, all of that is an attempt to fill some sort of vacuum in our lives and in our soul. So this is going to be an opportunity for you to gain some insight and information that will help to fill that void with what's supposed to be there to help fortify and build you up. So again, we wanted again, Pastor Kelly and myself, we're inviting you, your family. You can bring your entire family and just log on. The cool thing about it is it's online. Nobody has to get dressed. You do have to get dressed from waist up. Everybody has to have something on waist up because we want to be able to see your faces. A lot of times when we do these webinars, everybody signs on and they use their emojis, but we want to be able to see you face to face. So make sure you have your room, kind of set right. Okay, put the dog
Yeah.
away. Tell them it's only going to be a few hours. We're going to be sharing some. I mean, literally, you're going to be trying to drink from a fire hydrant because it's going to be rapid fire. So you're going to have to be able to be focused and to be able to pay attention. So make sure that you set the house in order. Find a quiet room, get your camera, get your computers, or whatever you're going to be using, and get into that isolated place. Get your pad, get your pencil, and I'm telling you right now, you're going to get the download for sure. All right. So that's again this Saturday. Don't forget it. Keeping it hot. Men's edition this weekend with myself and Dr. Roger C. Kelly. aka Roger or R. Kelly. No. Some would come just to see if R. Kelly actually showed up.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But it's going
That's
to be
true.
this weekend, Keeping It Hot Men's Edition, talking about mentality, masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? The power of being a man and responsibility of manhood. We're going to get into that and so much more this weekend, Saturday at 9 a.m. Make sure that you go to Michael Norman Ministries right now and sign up. You have to register. This is free of charge now. It's not going to cost you 1 red cent to attend this live webinar. Anything after that is going to have a cost associated with. So get it while it's free. This Saturday, you have to go to MichaelNormanMinistries.com, register so that you can get the link that will grant you access to the webinar. Get there early. It's going to be great. We're going to have an awesome time. I don't know if you Lakers fan, if you lose again on tomorrow night, we're going to pray for you. We're going to believe God for you, but you can still make it to keeping it hot men's edition. Amen. No hate. You know, I'm a little upset that Golden State had to go home, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. I'm not going to live in denial, okay?
All right. All right.
All those LeBron fans out there. All right, so again, Pastor Kelly, thank you so much. You're such an erudite and scholarly individual. I appreciate you added wealth and value to this gathering. Also, I want to shout out to the Arnolds. I see you there in the audience, Team Scarborough. Bless you guys. And I see my cousin, Sandra Jones. She's in the audience. And hey, listen, guys, again, I want you to become that electronic evangelist and begin to share with as many as you can. As soon as we go off the air, share this broadcast. For those who may not be able to make it Saturday, share this and it will be a blessing to their lives as well. Again, I want to thank you, Pastor Kelly, for joining us again
My
tonight
pleasure,
on
sir.
Wednesday's Word. But we are giving focus to this weekend, Keeping It Hot Men's Edition, and the women who love them. We're going to see you this Saturday. It is going to be amazing. We're going to have a wonderful time. Hey, listen, I look forward to seeing you there. Until then, blessings. Again, Pastor, thank you for being with us. We'll see you next time.
Blessings.